Now, the video shows protesters entering the building, waving Palestinian flags, chanting before finally being forced out. Kelly, what did you make of these scenes? I would think that of all the places pro-Palestine demonstrators would not or should not go, it would be the site of the World Trade Center attack.
That's exactly right, James. And I'm trying not to laugh because it is laughable that they would stage a protest there. But it's deadly serious what happened to the thousands of people murdered there. And it's deadly serious what they're doing. Honestly, been so many protests here in New York since October 7th. 2023, when, of course, Hamas massacred thousands of Israelis and took many hostage, including Americans. And, it actually has gotten a little bit back to normal. But of course, once school starts up again, things always get a little crazy. And lately, they've a little crazier. And, they were holding up traffic at one point. My own building, I work at the New York Post, and we also have in that building the Wall Street Journal and Fox News Channel. We have regular protests outside. Luckily, there hasn't been anything dangerous or, too scary happen. But, when you have thousands of people outside your building and, trying to get in, they actually took over the lobby at one point. It is a little frightening because these people think that violence is the answer. That's what they think the answer to Israel's existence is violence. When they say resistance, which they were starting to say, by the way, before Israel even did anything to respond to those heinous attacks on October 7th, they were already cheering those attacks and saying, well, this because the Palestinian people have been treated so poorly for so long. They thought that murdering civilians and little babies, as we know, was the answer. And of course it's not. And so it's always shocking to see so much of that in New York City. I have to say, there's anti-Semitism in America, but you don't expect to see so much of it, and especially in New York City, which is, the world's home to Jewish people in America.
Well, yeah, look, we had the exact same thing here in Sydney, Kelly, and it was absolutely shocking to all of us. But, speaking of, you mentioned school going back, one of the big stories at the moment is Columbia University. Now, Columbia University, of course, has a $14 billion U.S. Endowment, but they also get hundreds of millions of dollars from the federal taxpayer. It seems that they're now going to start to accede to some of the Trump administration's demands about cracking down on these crazy protests. But you have also broken a story about U.S. former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo accepting an appointment at Columbia to teach a course on diplomacy. How is that going down? Because I would think Mike Pompeo and Columbia would be pretty chalk and cheese.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it, James. And I was lucky enough to be able to get the exclusive interview with him, the first in his Columbia office. And it's actually impressive to me that Columbia has brought him on, and he's part of the School of International and Public Affairs Institute of Global Politics. And got the likes of Hillary Clinton and other people that are guest faculty as well. And it says something that they want to bring other ideas in. And certainly Mike Pompeo has very different ideas from everyone else there at Columbia. And he actually admits, his own words, the school has shortcomings when it comes to maintaining appropriate order. But he did not want to turn this down because he saw it as a great opportunity to get out ideas that are not normally heard on Columbia's campus. And, I commend him for that. He's going right into the belly of the beast. And I think it's great. Another person had been considering teaching at Columbia for a semester, and that's Deborah Lipstadt, who was President Biden's anti-Semitism czar or envoy. She decided not to, and she actually wrote saying she would not be a prop or a fig leaf. And I asked Mike Pompeo about that, and he certainly doesn't feel he's a prop or a fig leaf. And he's told me that the university has assured him that they are going to maintain order and not let the insanity we saw last year, where they took over a building, assaulted janitors.
We remember, yeah.
It was impossible for Jewish students to feel safe, and really for anyone to get an education once you take things online. And we are now, as you mentioned, James, the university is doing much better now that the president resigned last year. And I'm hearing they're close to a deal now with the Trump administration on, following anti-discrimination law so they don't lose up to 5 billion in federal funding, but
Well,
400
that's
million
right.
cut off
And
at first. Yeah.
And I mean, it's important to remember, too, at Columbia, things have gotten so bad that the Biden administration has started their own action. So this wasn't just a Trump thing. This has been going on for a long, long time. Finally, though, just your quick thoughts, since we're on this topic of schools. President Trump is going to sign this executive order to shut down the Department of Education. What do you make of this? I reckon for America, where the schools are all managed by the states and local areas, this is a great savings of bureaucracy and probably a lot of wokeness, too.
Exactly, James. I think this is a great idea. And the fact that, people like Randy Weingarten, who's head of one of the largest teachers union and was one of the people that really pushed to keep kids out of school during COVID, really ruining their educations. The fact that she and other liberals are freaking out about it just shows you what a great idea it is. Of course, there's the Department of Education is nowhere mentioned in the Constitution. It's not supposed to be under federal control. Education is supposed to be at the state level, at the local level. And we all know that things do better when they're decentralized. It's this heavy bureaucracy that's not needed. And you've got, federal bureaucrats telling schools, what policies they should have, what they should be teaching. And, it's fine when you've got a good government in power, but so often in Washington, we have a bad one. So I think it's a great idea. And I'll be honest, I never thought this would happen, that they would move towards this, but Trump is serious, and he's signing that order, and I can't wait to see this money saved and how much better I think education will get for American kids.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Kelly Jane Torrance, thank you so much for joining me. You can read her stuff in the New York Post. She is absolutely fantastic.